I just spent 6 weeks and more money than my accountant is comfortable with watching every Sony TV they currently make. And I'm going to tell you something that's going to save you from making a very expensive mistake. Because right now, Sony has 5 TVs on the market that look almost identical on the spec sheet, but perform completely differently in your living room. And if you pick the wrong one, you're going to spend $800 to $3,000 more than you needed to. Or worse, you're going to spend less and hate every movie you watch for the next 7 years. Stay with me, because the comparison I'm going to make at the end of this video is going to completely change how you think about buying a Sony TV in 2026. Here's how we're breaking this down. 5 Sony TVs, ranked from great to absolutely insane. I'm going to tell you exactly who each TV is for, exactly where each one falls short, and exactly which one deserves your money based on what you actually need. No fluff, no manufacturer talking points. Just what I found after weeks of real-world testing with my own eyes in my own home. Let's start at number 5. Number 5, Sony Bravia 5, starting around $799. The Sony Bravia 5 is what happens when Sony asks, what's the minimum we can do to make someone feel like they bought a premium TV? And the answer is honestly more impressive than it has any right to be. This is Sony's entry point into mini LED territory. And if you've never experienced mini LED before, here's what that means for you. Behind the LCD panel, instead of a handful of large backlighting zones, you've got thousands of tiny LEDs organized into hundreds of dimming zones. The result is that bright parts of the image can be brilliant, and dark parts can actually go dark, sometimes at the same time on the same screen. That's a big deal. The Bravia 5 uses Sony's XR processor, which is the same cognitive intelligence engine you'll find in TVs that cost 3 times as much. It's doing real-time scene analysis, adjusting color, contrast, and clarity on a frame-by-frame basis. I tested this with a nature documentary that had bright sunlit savannas cutting to dark, shadowed close-ups of leopards, and the transitions were smooth and natural in a way that cheaper mini LED TVs from other brands simply aren't. The 4K panel supports Dolby Vision and HDR10. The HDMI 2.1 ports are ready for PS5 and Xbox Series X at 4K 120Hz. And the Google TV interface is genuinely one of the best smart TV platforms available right now. Fast, intuitive, almost never frustrating. But here's the catch. The Bravia 5 has fewer local dimming zones than the rest of this list. And in very specific situations, think a tiny bright logo against a pitch-black background. You'll see a faint glow around the bright area that technically shouldn't be there. It's called blooming, and mini LED TVs at every price point deal with it to some degree. The Bravia 5 deals with it more than the others. For sports, daytime TV, gaming in a bright room, invisible problem. For cinephiles watching dark films in a blacked-out room, you'll notice it. Just know what you're buying. For a living room TV, where lights are usually on and the content varies from sports to kids' cartoons to the occasional action movie, the Bravia 5 is genuinely incredible value. It's a premium experience at a price that's hard to argue with. Number 4, Sony Bravia 7, starting around $1,099. Now, we're getting serious. The Bravia 7 takes everything the Bravia 5 does well and runs further with it in every direction. The first thing you'll notice is brightness. The Bravia 7 pushes significantly higher peak brightness than the Bravia 5, which matters enormously if your living room gets a lot of natural light. I tested both side by side on a sunny afternoon with no curtains drawn, and the Bravia 7's HDR highlights, a glint of sunlight off a car hood, the bloom of an explosion, a stadium lighting rig, popped in a way that made the Bravia 5 look slightly flat by comparison. Not bad, just flatter. The local dimming is also a meaningful step up. More zones means tighter control, which means less blooming, which means dark scenes look closer to what they should. I watched a full episode of a prestige TV drama that's been shot with almost exclusively candlelit interior scenes, and the Bravia 7 handled it beautifully. Flame was warm and nuanced. Shadows were genuinely dark. The image had depth. Sony has also refined the motion handling here. There's a feature called XR Motion Clarity that keeps fast-moving content, football, tennis, action sequences, looking sharp without introducing that artificial soap opera smoothing effect that makes everything look like it was shot on a camcorder in 1994. You've got full control over how aggressive the motion processing is, and the default settings are surprisingly tasteful. The Bravia 7 is also where the sound starts to get genuinely impressive. Sony's acoustic multi-audio system positions tweeters across the frame of the TV, so that sound appears to come from the part of the screen where the action is happening. A car driving left to right? The audio tracks with it. It sounds like a gimmick gimmick until it works. And then it sounds like something you can't believe you lived without. Who is this for? Anyone stepping up from a basic LCD TV who wants a serious picture improvement without entering the pain threshold of premium pricing. If your budget tops out around $1,100 to $1,300, the Bravia 7 is where you stop scrolling and start ordering. Number 3. Sony Bravia 8. Starting around $1,299. Here's where the list changes fundamentally. Because the Bravia 8 doesn't use mini LED, it uses OLED, and that is a completely different conversation. Mini LED is still backlighting an LCD panel. You're still shining light through crystals. You're still managing zones. OLED doesn't work that way. In an OLED panel, every single pixel produces its own light and can switch itself off individually. That means true black isn't a dimming zone doing its best impression of darkness. True black is the pixel literally turning off. No light. Nothing. Zero. The difference this makes to picture quality is not subtle. I put the Bravia 8 next to the Bravia 7 in a dark room and played the same scene, a spaceship floating against a deep black cosmos. On the Bravia 7, the black of space was a very dark gray with a faint backlight glow around the ship. On the Bravia 8, the black of space was black. The ship looked like it was floating in actual darkness. The contrast ratio isn't just better, it's in a different category. Sony puts their XR-OLED Contrast Pro processing on the Bravia 8, which means they're actively managing how the panel drives each pixel to maximize the difference between the brightest whites and the darkest blacks. Color accuracy is reference level out of the box. I compared it to a professional monitor I use for photo editing, and the color rendering was competitive. On a TV you buy at a retail store and plug into a wall. The Bravia 8 also handles skin tones in a way that no mini LED TV on this list can quite match. There's a naturalness to faces, a warmth to complexion, a three-dimensionality to close-up shots that makes you feel like you're watching people rather than watching a very good picture of people. The honest limitation? OLED panels don't get as bright as the best mini LED TVs. In a bright, sunlit room, the Bravia 7 will actually look more impressive in certain HDR moments because it can hit higher peak brightness numbers. The Bravia 8 is a dark-room TV, and it is phenomenal in that environment. But if your TV faces a south-facing window that gets blasted with afternoon sun, think carefully before committing. Also worth knowing, OLED still carries a theoretical risk of burn-in with prolonged static images. It's less of a concern with modern panels than it used to be, and Sony has mitigations built in. But if you plan to leave a news ticker running for 8 hours a day, factor that into your decision. For movie lovers, for anyone who watches prestige drama or anything shot with serious cinematic intent, the Bravia 8 is the first TV on this list that will make a filmmaker genuinely happy. Number 2. Sony Bravia 9, starting around $1,799. The Bravia 9 is what happens when Sony takes the mini LED technology from the Bravia 7, throws out the engineering constraints, and asks their best people to build the brightest, most controlled mini LED TV they've ever made. The headline number is brightness, and it's not close. The Bravia 9 is one of the brightest consumer TVs available at any price from any manufacturer. HDR highlights don't just pop, they genuinely assault your eyeballs in the most satisfying way imaginable. I watched a Formula 1 race shot in 4K HDR on a Sunday afternoon with full sun through the windows, and the Bravia 9 was so bright and so vivid that I actually laughed out loud. It felt unfair. The local dimming control has reached a level where it's starting to close the gap with OLED in real-world viewing. Sony has put more dimming zones into the Bravia 9 than almost any other mini LED TV exists, and the XR backlight master drive system manages those zones with an intelligence that prevents the blooming issues that plague every cheaper mini LED set. I specifically tested difficult scenes, white text on black backgrounds, star fields, candle flames in dark rooms, and the Bravia 9 handled all of them better than I expected a mini LED TV to handle them. Color volume on this TV is staggering. The combination of extreme brightness and precise color management means colors at high brightness levels remain accurate and saturated in ways that most TVs can't achieve. Sports content on the Bravia 9 is the best I have ever seen on a non-professional display. HDR Sport is a religious experience. The sound system is another step up. The Bravia 9 features Acoustic Multi-Audio Plus, with more more driver positions than the Bravia 7, and the result is a soundstage that's wide and surprisingly three-dimensional for a flat-panel TV. You'll still want a soundbar or surround system for serious home theater use, but for casual viewing, this TV sounds legitimately impressive on its own. Who should buy the Bravia 9? If you watch a lot of sports, if your room is bright, if you want the most viscerally impressive image that mini LED technology can currently produce, this is your TV. It is not subtle. It is not understated. It is an assault on your senses, and it is absolutely spectacular. Number 1. Sony Bravia II, starting around $2,199. I know what you're thinking. It's the more expensive OLED, and it's number 1. Of course it is. But here's why it actually deserves that spot, and it's not for the reason you think. The Bravia 8 II isn't just the Bravia 8 with a price increase. Sony made specific engineering improvements to the panel itself and to the processing stack that closed the only real gap the original Bravia 8 had: brightness. The second-generation OLED panel in the Bravia 8 II pushes significantly higher peak brightness than the first-generation panel in the Bravia 8. We're not at Bravia 9 mini LED levels, but the difference between the Bravia 8 and the Bravia 8 II in a bright room is meaningful and noticeable. What that means in practice is that you now get everything OLED does better than mini LED: the perfect blacks, the pixel-level contrast, the extraordinary color accuracy, the natural skin tones. Without the previous generation's relative weakness in bright HDR highlights, the gap has genuinely closed. I tested the Bravia 8 II with content that represents the hardest possible challenge for any TV: simultaneously bright and dark elements in the same frame. A dark theater interior with a bright spotlight on a performer, an underwater scene with sunlight penetrating from above, a night city skyline with neon signs. In every single case, the Bravia 8 II handled it with a composure that made me forget I was sitting in a room evaluating a television and just made me watch the content. The processing has also been refined. XR cognitive intelligence on the Bravia 8 II feels noticeably more sophisticated in its upscaling of non-4K content. I fed it a Blu-ray from 2009, not 4K, not HDR, just a standard 1080p disc, and the upscaled image had a clarity and dimensionality that the previous generation TVs couldn't quite match. If you have a library of physical media, or if you watch a lot of streaming that doesn't always deliver 4K, this matters. The gaming credentials are also fully realized here: 4K 120Hz, VRR, ALLM, and a dedicated game mode that drops input lag to the point where competitive gamers will notice nothing amiss. You do not have to choose between the best movie TV and a capable gaming TV. The Bravia 8 II is both. Here's my honest summary. If you care about absolute image quality above all else, if your viewing environment can be reasonably controlled, and if you primarily watch movies and premium content, the Bravia 8 II is the best TV Sony makes and one of the best TVs available from anyone. Full stop.